Hello, my name is Carol Page. I'm the program manager of the South Carolina Assistive Technology Program. I am also a speech language pathologist, and I have my PhD in speech language pathology. Today, I want to share a little bit of information about the South Carolina Assistive Technology Program, but we're really going to be focusing on communication on the job or at school. It's so important, and communication starts at a very early age. But I still meet teenagers who are nonverbal. They're still going to school and they do need assistance. So we need to get them ready for the job market or to go to college. So let's first look at what the definition of augmentative and alternative communication is. This is what speech language pathologists call the whole study of helping people who are nonverbal. And it does include the devices we use and other resources as well. So the definition is augmentative and alternative communication includes all forms of communication other than speech. Speech is not included in this definition, that are used to express thoughts, needs, wants, and ideas. It can include facial expressions, body posture, gestures, symbol use, or writing. So sometimes people will tell me, oh, this person does not communicate at all. And what I find is they're doing the best they can using gestures and facial expressions and things like that. But we definitely want to use augmentative and alternative communication to enhance that and make it so that other people understand very clearly what they want to say. So let's talk about people who are nonverbal, especially teenagers who are nonverbal, and what this means for them. There's lots of challenges, and I'm going to go over the 4 main challenges. The first one is increased risk of abuse and neglect. And unfortunately, this is well documented. So we want to make sure that people who use communication devices can speak up for themselves. I know of one teenager that graduated from high school. He went to work on an assembly line, which fit him perfectly, but he did not have any means to communicate with his boss to tell him that there was abuse going on and that it needed the boss's attention. So we don't want things like that to happen. And the way we can prevent that is to give a reliable mode of communication. Also, there's challenging behaviors. People who are nonverbal sometimes have to do total meltdowns to get their point across instead of being able to use words to be able to get their point across. And we do not want meltdowns. So it's really important that we find a meaningful way for them to communicate without having to use unwanted behavior. Poor health outcomes. If you can't explain to your doctor what is going on with you, you will not receive the treatment that you need. So it's very important to have a reliable communication system to be able to let people know exactly what you're experiencing. And I mean everything from a headache, stomach ache, the whole way to something more serious where you might need to have some sort of intervention. Another challenge is decreased decision-making and participation in community life. Having a way to communicate really opens up doors. It helps you create friends and establish relationships, especially with colleagues at work. So it's so important that it's more than just being able to say wants and needs. We want to actually join in relationships with other people so that we can let them know what our ideas and thoughts are. And that is the way to advancement as well in the job. So now I'm going to play a video. One moment, please, while I switch over from my slide to the video. Hi, whoops.
Hi.
There we go.
Wait. More. I wait more.
Well, John, you've told me quite a story. Why don't you hit speak display so everybody can hear the whole story? Thank you.
It was time to eat. I wait and wait. No one there. No one comes. I'm afraid no one here will help me eat. I wait more. She come and say to me, you don't tell. She bad and mean. She go away. I wait more.
Well, I'm glad you could tell me about it. Is there something you need me to do to fix it? You can take care of it yourself. Excellent.
So as you can see, John had a caregiver who was not attending to his needs, which is so important. So this really helped him be able to say about what had happened that day, which was basically that his caregiver did not feed him and then insisted that John not tell anybody. And with the communication device, John was able to advocate for himself so that he could get a caregiver who would give him the meals that he needed every day. So important. Okay, myths about AAC. An AAC system makes people lazy and stop talking. A lot of people think this. It is absolutely a myth. AAC systems, or communication devices is another way to call it. They help people talk and get their meaning across. They're also work. That's the other thing about these communication devices. If you're able to actually produce the words, that's going to be far easier than using a device, because it takes a lot of time and energy to find the messages you want to say. And there's shortcuts to that, but still, it's much faster to talk and get your message across that way than it is to have to find your message on an electronic device. So we really don't want to go that direction. Also, another myth is that AAC is the last resort. This is absolutely not true. AAC can be started at any age, as early as 2 or maybe even younger, depending on the child. So it is not the last resort. So if you're a teenager and you're in high school and you still don't have a communication device, it's time to make that happen. So, and that's what I do, is I help facilitate that process. Another myth is they must use the communication device for the rest of their life. And that's absolutely not true. Some students are able to gain so much natural speech using the communication device that they don't need it anymore. And that is the ultimate goal. That's what we really want to happen. That's when it's working really well. Nonverbal transitioning students, if a student is nonverbal, they must have a communication device. If they're on a transition plan, they have to have a communication device. It is the only way they'll be able to advocate for themselves with dignity, that they will be able to express their wants and needs and more. And we'll talk more about what all you can talk about with a communication device. Many nonverbal transition age students do not have communication devices. And I do visit schools, and I have been in schools with students who are in high school, and they used to have a communication device, but they don't have it any longer. And they are nonverbal, and we definitely want to give them a way to express themselves. If a student has a communication device, they must have consistent, ongoing access to it. And this is so true. I have been in classrooms where all the communication devices were kept in a box underneath the teacher's desk. And I know the teacher was trying to do the best they can, but it's really important that the student who is nonverbal has access to his communication device at all time. And it's the same kind of thinking that we have access to using our mouth to speak all the time. We need to make sure these students have their communication devices to speak all the time. Very important. And then for most people, ongoing speech language pathology services is often needed. Not all the time. In some situations, the student has a text-to-speech program and they're very literate. They know how to spell everything they want. They're writing in complete sentences. Their grammar is good. In those type of situations, they will not need ongoing speech language pathology services. They'll have a device, they'll type out a message, and then it'll speak for them, and they do it very effectively. But anybody with performances less than that will need ongoing speech language pathology therapy. So who does these assessments? Like, where do you start? So the speech therapists in the school do the assessments, speech language pathologists in a rehabilitation hospital and like an outpatient clinic, and then private speech language pathologists at a clinic. And so a lot of people will call me up and ask for where they can go for a speech language pathology evaluation in different parts of the state, and I'm glad to help out with that. Not only do you want to ask for an evaluation, but you want to ask who is familiar with augmentative communication and communication devices. You want to make sure they have some experience with that, because you want to make sure that you're going to get a good solution to help you out with being nonverbal and getting a communication device that helps you be verbal again. So how can a student get a device? Well, you have to get an assessment first. And the assessment includes assessments for communication devices do not happen in an hour. A lot of speech language pathologists will borrow communication devices from the South Carolina Assistive Technology Program, and will try out different devices. Or if they borrow an iPad, they'll try out different apps. And so that is really important. And so if they borrow a couple of devices, that can happen over weeks. So when you're looking for a communication device, you want to make sure you do your due diligence and that it happens over weeks and not in an hour. And if there are no physical disabilities, often you can start with an iPad or an iPhone. You don't need to go to a commercial product that costs thousands of dollars. But if there are physical disabilities, you can try a commercial device with a key guard. And you might even need to try eye gaze communication devices. And so that's definitely within the realm of possibility. Commercial devices mean that they're a tablet in a special case with usually a speaker on the back of it, and that it also has what's called key guards, which are lucite coverings to the screen that have holes drilled in them the exact same size as like the letters on a keyboard, or the letters on the on-screen keyboard, or the same size as the picture communication symbols on the screen. And that way your finger doesn't hit messages by accident. The key guard focuses your finger to a specific point, your target point, so that you're actually touching the screen where you want to. Eye gaze devices are getting more and more popular, and thankfully more accurate over time too, so that they're easier to use. And with eye gaze systems, you don't need to move any body part other than your eyes. So people who are like what they call completely locked in can use them, but we've also used them with people with spasticity where they're moving an awful lot, and they don't have any controlled motor movements other than their eye movements. So it's definitely something to talk about and see if that might be a possible solution. And there are many communication apps for iPhones and some, not so many, for Android phones. So this is definitely something that we can help you with. Not all communication apps are made for a phone. So you want to make sure that you do find an app that you would be able to download to your phone. And the picture-based communication apps are plentiful for the iPhones. There are, I think, just one or two for an Android phone. So sometimes people ask me, should I get an Apple product or should I get an Android product? And honestly, if you're somebody with a disability, you definitely want to go the Apple route because for people with disabilities, they have far more apps available. And you'll just find more that fits your needs available to you with an Apple product. So texting is also communicating and important to know about. Some individuals find eye contact very painful and they prefer to communicate using text. And you might think, when would that ever be okay in a job? And honestly, it is, depending on where you work, it can absolutely be okay. One great example of this is a young man. He was working at a sandwich shop. And he would text his boss when he finished a task to get a new task. And when his boss saw that a specific table needed to be cleaned off or a customer needed help, his boss would text him what to do next. And it was very effective. But when they asked the student or the young man to communicate to the boss face to face, looking him in the eye, the young man just couldn't do it. And it's not unusual for this to be something that students or young adults with autism face. So thought you might enjoy this little meme about communicating face to face. So we talked about this earlier. Okay, so you've done your evaluation, you want to borrow some devices. How do you make that happen? Well, to borrow a communication device from the South Carolina Assistive Technology Program, you want to contact one of our staff members. His name is Bilfred Leverett, and there's his phone number and email, 803-935-5362. His email is Bilfred, BILLFRED .Leverett, LEV, V as in Victor, ERETT as in Tom, E at uscmed.sc.edu. The other thing to know about our loan program for devices is that there's no rental fee. So, and for those people who live outside of Richland and Lexington counties, we can mail the devices to you. If you live within Richland and Lexington counties, we do ask that you come by our resource center. We're located at 8301 Farrer Road and pick up the devices and drop them off. But outside of those counties, we do ship it. And after your loan has been completed, we ask that you ship it back to us and that you will pay for that shipping. But that's the only cost that you will incur with borrowing the devices is shipping it back. Otherwise, everything else is free. So if you have any questions about that, be sure to give us a call. Also, some of our devices, like for instance, iPads with communication apps, we have quite a few of those. Some of the devices, like the commercial products that cost thousands of dollars, we only have one of everything. And so you would want to make sure that that is available. And if it's not available and somebody else is borrowing it, you definitely want to fill out the paperwork on our website and provide it to us so that we can put you on the waiting list for what you're looking for. Apps to trial. So picture-based communication apps such as Touch Chat HD with Word Power, Avaz, Proloquo to Go, LAMP, Cough Drop, and Grid for iPad. So these are all picture-based. You touch the picture, it says the word out loud. These are all very robust communication apps. And what do I mean by that? They're very flexible. They allow you to set them up to meet the students' needs today, and it will still meet their needs down the road as well. So the other thing about these apps that make them so desirable is that they do follow the research that goes into what makes a good communication app. So between all of that, these are things you definitely want to look at. So these are things you would want to try. And so you could absolutely borrow an iPad from us with all these apps on the same iPad, and you would be able to try these over time to see what is the best fit for the student or the young adult you're working with. Then some of the apps are text-based, where you spell out the words and then it says it out loud. And these text-based communication apps come in all different shapes and sizes. They have different features to them. One is predictable, another is assistive chat, Proloquo for text, FlipWriter, Verbally, Claricom Pro. And just to update you kind of on what kind of price we're looking for, the picture-based communication apps go the whole way up to $350, but these text-based communication apps go up to about $230. So you can see there is a difference, and there is a difference in the features that they offer too. For instance, Assistive Chat is a $25 app. It offers very few features, but something like Predictable or Proloquo for text, excuse me, offer a lot of features. They have word walls, they have phrases that are pre-stored, and lots of other features as well. They also let you text your messages. So does Assistive Chat. Let you email and text your messages to someone else, which can be very useful as well. In South Carolina, a lot of people don't know about this, so I'm excited to share this with all the school districts out there. In South Carolina, you can get a free iPad in an OtterBox case with a free communication app of your choice. And how to do that is you want to start by contacting the iPad project and ask for an application. So your point of contact is Casey Sims. She is the equipment distribution specialist, and her office phone is 803-737-0817, and her email is csims, that's CSIMS, at ors.sc.gov. You'll want to give her your address so she can send you the application. The application has a one-page application inside that needs to be filled out. The front half of the application is filled out by the young adult or the parent and the student. The other side is filled out by a speech language pathologist. The speech language pathologist will indicate what the app of choice is, and that will be loaded onto the iPad. The iPad belongs to the family. We encourage the families to let the student or the young adult take it to work with them, have it at home, take it to school with them, and basically have it in all environments where they find themselves. If a family member fills it out for a student, they need to provide a copy of their driver's license, a copy of a current phone bill, and proof of guardianship. And you can do this by just including a copy of the birth certificate. We already talked about how the speech language pathologist must include the app of choice, and they put that under a section called certifier notes. We talked earlier about how some people have physical disabilities, and I'm kind of circling back around to that to show you what I meant by getting a key guard. Again, they might try to touch the screen, but their finger goes across the screen and touches things on the screen that they did not mean to touch. And so the way to isolate your finger is to be able to use a key guard. So I have a picture here of an iPad with a custom-made key guard on it. And the custom key guard comes from a place called Key Guard Assistive Technology, and they can be found on the web at www.keyguard.com. And those run about $135. They do want to know what case you're using and what app you're using, and they'll make it so that it fits exactly. They do a great job. Here's a picture of a commercial AAC device. We were talking earlier about how commercial products are tablets. They usually have a great handle on them. As you can see in this illustration, it's a rubberized, thick handle, makes it easy to carry. They also have a large speaker on the back as well. So this particular one has a key guard on it, and you can see this one is clear and it has holes drilled in it. So your fingers would go in the holes and touch the screen to be able to activate the message that you want to say. And this is a great example of what picture-based communication apps look like. So this device is from Talk to Me Technologies. There's plenty of commercial devices and companies. This particular company does use actual iPads in their products, and then provides the stand and the handle and the speaker for it. So this is what they look like. Also want to let people know, if you cannot, we're still talking about physical disabilities, and if you cannot use your hands, that's okay. There are other ways to interact, either with a computer to communicate, or some sort of low-tech communication board. So the picture on the left is two people looking at a communication board, and the man has what's called a laser pointer, and the laser pointer is shooting a beam on to a letter onto his communication board. So he would be able to move his head and move the beam of light to be able to spell words on a low-tech communication board. Very effective, very low cost, very easy to set up. So that would be something somebody could use at work, you could use at college, you could use at home. Another device that I wanted to show you, and this is at the bottom, a girl is wearing a headband, and it has a little piece of plastic right above her ear, and it's about half the size of a business card. And this headset is called the Quaha, and it senses head movement. And then there's a wire that comes down from the Quaha, and then it has a little piece of plastic that goes in front of your mouth. When you blow when you blow into the little piece in front of your mouth, it's like a left mouse click. So what this woman is doing, she is typing out something to say on a computer, and she's moving her head from letter to letter, and every time she gets to a letter that she wants to use to spell her word, she'll give a puff of air into the piece of plastic in front of her mouth, and it will select that letter. And I know this sounds like a slow process, but you can get really fast at it. So it's not a slow process at all, but all of this is about moving your head around and moving the cursor with head movements. In the upper right is a picture of a laptop with a onboard on-screen keyboard, and there's a metal device at the top, and this metal device is called a head mouse nano. And the head mouse nano is a little camera that is looking for a reflection. And the way you get a reflection is to put a silver dot. You can either put it here on your glasses or maybe here on your glasses. Some people put the silver dot on the end of their nose. And if you don't wear glasses, some people put it between your eyebrows. And as you move your head, the silver dot, of course, moves with your head, and the camera on top of the laptop sees the reflection and makes the cursor move along with your head movements. And then when you're on a target long enough, and this is called a dwell feature, it will select that letter, and you would be able to type to send emails and type to communicate. It's just another way of not having to use your hands. So there's plenty of ways to get people talking, even though they can't use their hands. Eye gaze is the next thing you can try, definitely worth a trial. And again, this is for people who might be able to move their head, maybe not. This is an eye gaze device. It looks like a computer screen. And at the bottom, there is a slender screen, and that slender screen actually has cameras inside of it that are looking at your eyes. And some people tell me that this machine will read your mind, but it absolutely will not read your mind. What it does is the cameras watch your eyes and see where your eyes are looking on the screen, and they move the cursor exactly to where you're looking on the screen. And when you leave the cursor there long enough, it will select whatever it is on. So if you move the cursor to a letter and leave it there, and it's just for like part of a second, it's not even half a second, it will select that letter, and you'll be able to type out single words or phrases or whole sentences and be able to talk that way. These devices are also pretty sophisticated. So they also have environmental control on them, where the nonverbal person would be able to turn on lights and fans or anything electrical that just has an on-off to it. It also will let you change channels on the TV set to whatever you want. And it will also let you text and email and get on. You won't be able to Zoom, I don't think, on this one, but you would be able to Skype and talk to people in using that kind of technology. So they're very powerful. Some people use them to drive their wheelchair as well. It just depends on what your needs are. So definitely could have a job and be able to use one of these devices with eye gaze if you needed to. Now, say you have picked the communication device, it doesn't stop there. You definitely need encouragement. With people just starting out, you want to encourage communication, and the way to do that is to model it. So I have a picture of two people looking at the screen of a communication device. And it's okay for both of these individuals to be using the communication device. So it looks like maybe a brother or a mentor is with somebody, perhaps with an intellectual disability who's nonverbal, using the communication device. And the brother can tap the alphabet to spell or use picture-based communication and talk that way to his brother or his mentee. And then the brother or mentee would be able to use the same communication to respond. So it's okay to use other people's communication device when they're just starting out. They need a great model. They need people to show them where the vocabulary is, where the letters are, and how to use them to be able to communicate. And then communication should be shared. It's not just about one person doing all the talking. We've all met somebody who does all the talking to the exclusion of others. And we really don't want to be around people like that. So we have to make sure that we're not doing all the talking around somebody who uses a communication device. We have to make sure we include them in the conversation, and it should be back and forth. So one person says something, the communication partner responds, first person responds again, back and forth, back and forth. That's what a true conversation should look like. Another way to encourage communication is not to ask yes and no questions. Yes and no questions just mean it just makes it just a one-sided conversation. So we want to be able to ask open-ended questions. So instead of saying, did you go to a movie this weekend? And the person responds yes and no, we want to say, well, what did you do this weekend? Instead of saying, is the report finished? We want to say, tell me a little bit about your work on the report that you're working on. And you'll get far more information that way and get lots of back and forth communication and conversation. So we have these communication devices. What can we talk about? Well, a lot of people think communication devices are for asking for wants and needs. Great place to start, but it needs to move beyond that pretty quickly. So we want to be able to initiate or call attention to either ourselves or something in the environment or something on a computer. We want to be able to greet, and that includes saying hello, goodbye, see you later, alligator, what's up or sup or however you say hello to people. Those kind of things need to be programmed into the devices. We need to be able to accept things and say thanks, and also to be able to say yes, instead of maybe it more effectively than just nodding our head. We also need to reject, and I've seen communication devices that have the word yes on it, but do not have the word no on it. And we really don't want to do that. We want to give everybody an appropriate way to say no. We don't want to give people no opportunity to say no appropriately and then get meltdowns. So it's really important to give people an appropriate way to reject something, to say they don't want to do it, or to be able to say no. And then also to protest, like, I don't want to do it, I'm tired, or that's not fair, or things like that. We have to make sure that vocabulary is part of that as well. To be able to request objects, like, I need the Thompson report, or do you have the jig that I need to be able to work on these products on the assembly line? So we have to be able to do requesting. We also need to be able to share and show objects. So if you are working in a plant and you're working with devices or pieces of equipment, you want to be able to show it to somebody else and say, hey, take a look at this. Look at what this is doing. And do you think I need to do this to make it better, or to fix it this way? So that's very important. And then to request information, like to be able to ask, when is the due date? When do I need to finish mopping these floors? We need to be able to ask for information. We also need to be able to name things and let people know that we know the pieces and parts of whatever we're building, or the different aspects of a report we're writing. We need to have people know that we know all those things. We also need to be able to acknowledge others, and to be able to say, hey, I see you, you just entered the room, and yes, I'm in this conversation, but you come join us, be part of this. You also need to be able to answer a question that somebody asks, and with more than just a yes and no, which also often means more than just a single word, that you're going to want to build phrases and sentences. You're also going to want to comment on things like, oh, I saw how you did that. That was pretty smart. And to be able to share like that. Also to express feelings like, I'm feeling really sad today. you know, everybody has a way to everybody who's verbal has the opportunity to share their feelings very nicely. I was aware of one high schooler who lost a family member and did not have a communication device and no way to express it. And he was severely depressed. But thankfully, the speech language pathologist saw what was going on, got him a communication device. He was very active with it, used it great, and he was able to let people know how he was feeling and to be able to deal with those feelings. So he actually got help with all of that. That would have never have happened without a communication device. Assert independence is another conversation to have. And this means being able to advocate for yourself. Like, don't do that for me. I can do it for myself. That's asserting independence. The ability to ask questions, um, you know, um, what what part of the report do you want me to work on? What part of the assembly line am I going to be working on? When's lunchtime? Where's the bathroom? Things like that. We want to be able to share information. Like, I had a family member die and I need some days off. We need to be able to talk about things like that. And then relate events, so that you would be able to say, hey, I'm working on this, and this is a lot like what we were working on a week ago, and what we did with that project worked. And so I'm going to try it on this project. So to be able to talk to others and relate events, and then call attention to how things are related, whether they're similar or different. Talk about past and future, to be able to talk about projects you've worked on in the past and how it relates to things that you're working on now. And then negotiate and bargain. And negotiation is a very big deal. Research has been done that shows that 70% of our conversational interactions involve negotiations from the time we are young through college age. So negotiations are a very big deal, and we have to know how to do them. And so somebody who has a communication device needs to learn how to do it with their communication device as well. We need to be able to state opinions, and then also to be able to make up and share stories. So lots of things to talk about with our communication devices. Another way to encourage communication is to wait. And waiting is so hard for so many of us, but it couldn't be more true. We have to wait until the person who's using a communication device finishes creating their message, and for them to actually say the message out loud using their device, and then we can respond. But for some people, if we interrupt, they have to start all over again, and we don't want that to happen. And also, they need to concentrate while they're using their communication device. And if we interrupt, they'll lose concentration, and maybe the message won't be as effective as it originally started out to be. So we need to wait. We need to be quiet. We need to be respectful. And as soon as we hear the message from the communication device and the communication user, then we can respond. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the assistive technology program and how it all works as far as getting a communication device. So we have a flow chart, and Flo is a woman who has a disability, and she needs assistive technology. So the first thing she's going to do is have some public awareness, like what agencies can help her, what companies have the products that she's looking for. She's also going to get information and assistance, and you can get information and assistance from the staff here at the South Carolina Assistive Technology Program, or you can find it from other professionals as well, like device representatives and people like that. So from that point, you can call and get informational materials. You can call for brochures. You can call a helpline. So lots of ways of getting more information about assistive technology. And then comes the demonstration part, so important. So either by coming or connecting with the South Carolina Assistive Technology Program, we do demonstrations all the time by Zoom. We would show you how to use the device. I did one just before I recorded this session. So we'll show you how to use the device, where the settings are, how to set things up. We'll also let you borrow these products. Then the person with a disability decides whether they like it, decide whether they want to own it. And then also what's really important is getting help to acquire the product. Some products might be private pay, but with communication devices, I already showed you how you can get a free iPad with a communication app, and that's for people 5 and older, but for transitioning students, that's no problem. You do need to work with a speech language pathologist to do that, but if an iPad is not going to work for you, you do need to work with your speech language pathologist, and the speech language pathologist writes a funding request to the company who sells the device you want to get, and then they submit that information through Medicaid up until the age of 21. So that funding is available for students with disabilities up until they're 21. So the other thing you can do is see if somebody has donated any equipment to us. And that might be a possibility as well. If somebody has donated it to us, we can pass it along at no charge as well. If it didn't meet your needs, you need to move on and look at other devices. It's so important not to feel boxed in by the first device you try. If it's not a good fit, please do not stop there. Continue to borrow devices and try out different things. So when Flo or the person with a disability finally finds the device that fits their needs and will grow with them over time and are able to find funding for it, or they're able to get it free, then they need training on it. That's the next thing. So we want to make sure that that happens as well. So we do provide training and information assistance. So training, just like today, we provide telephone assistance. Just give us a call. We'll be glad to help out. Demonstrations are done by Zoom at this time, but we're looking forward to when we can meet again. And we are sending out loan items before the demonstration, so you have the equipment in hand before we demonstrate and see if it's going to be a good fit. Device loan, you can borrow our devices for 2 to 4 weeks. If no one else is on the waiting list for it, you can extend those loans another 2 to 4 weeks. It depends on the device. Usually things with screens, we loan out for 2 weeks at a time, and things without screens, we can loan out for 4 weeks at a time. It just depends on the object, the device. Here's our information about the reutilization that we do. This is online, the online exchange, and that's where people post equipment they don't need anymore. Sometimes there are communication devices on this list. People are either giving them away or selling them, and you can get connected with that person through an email or a phone number and find out more information before you get it. We also, again, people donate communication devices to us sometimes. We get them all cleaned up back to factory settings, and then we look for new owners for them. We want to move those devices on and get them in the hands of people who can really use them. We also do a public awareness activity every year. So in March of 2021, we will have a virtual South Carolina Assistive Technology Expo, and we're really excited about it. It'll be on March 2nd, and you will have to register for it, and the registration is on our website. And that's on our website. You just go, search for South Carolina Assistive Technology Program and click on 2021 Expo, and it'll be right there on how to register for it. We also do public awareness. Our website has lots of information. It tells you how you can borrow a device from us. It gives a list of the devices we have in our resource center. And there's also a resource section where you can find out all kinds of information about how to get funding. We even have funding on there for how students with autism can get communication devices and things like that. We also want you to become part of our listserv because we send out information about free activities that we do on a regular basis, but not a lot. You won't get a lot of emails, I promise. And if you want to do that, please email me. And my email address is Carol, CAROL, Page, PAGE, at uscmed.sc.edu. Or you can call me at 803-935-5301. And here is our information if you want to call the main line, just to get our administrative assistant and talk with her about who would be able to help you the best. That number is 803-935-5263. We also have a toll-free number, 800-915-4522. If there's anything we can help you with, please let us know. We'll be happy to help out. Thank you so much.